Hola, amigos. I have returned. I did what I thought was a great video on an extreme slash forgotten film, and somehow the video got corrupted. It was about 58 minutes long. I'll try to be more concise, but I'm going to try to cover the same ground. I've had quite a few cocktails tonight. I've had incredible back and side pain, hip pain. I don't want to use up all my prescription pain medicine. I'm using my nerve pain medicine. But just as with my hands, the reason I was drinking a bit heavily toward the end of last year was because after a while, I just stopped feeling all this anguish and agony. And that's why I'm doing it tonight. So I'm on my fourth cocktail. I'm chugging it pretty hard. Tastes good. So we're going to talk about an extreme slash forgotten film. We're going to talk about Judex from 1916 by the great Louis Feuillade. So I don't know if you guys like silent movies or just think they're boring. I personally think, if they're well done, of course that's subjective. I think they have a very commanding presence in your mind. It's surrealism. It's tapping into your subconscious. And the imagery is all because there's no dialogue narrative. I mean, they became narrative films, but only through intertitles and the actors kind of overacting, get the point across. The early films by Georges Méliès are just amazing in the 1890s to the 1910s. The effects he used and all these things he came up with, camera tricks. I've made my way through a lot of them, the short ones. He made a lot, but I have not seen all of them. I think I've seen about 35 of them. Méliès was the man. He was the man. So let's go forward a few years. I think around 1913, 1914, Feuillade decided he was doing serials. He was adapting from literary serials, which he was also, co-writing or shepherding, like Fantomas. I had a friend, Alex Clark, ladies and gentlemen, who lives in Charlotte. He's a renowned painter and artist and kind of explorer of different styles. He was my boss briefly at Borders. He was a fantastic man. He let me borrow a very rare volume of Fantomas, co-written by the two creators, and I'm lame ass. I can't remember the name of them. I think Sylvestre was one of them. Alain was the first name. It was good. It was a little dry. I love the Fantomas serial. Now, the Fantomas serial I've only seen all the way through, maybe one time, and then some clips and episodes here and there. So I'm not as familiar with it, even though I know a lot about the character. And of course, the character himself, and this is in the book I read, is very elusive. He's a master of disguise. I really like the 60s version where Jean Marais plays the policeman or detective hunting him down in this series of French movies in the early 60s. But Marais also played Fantomas, and he had this solid blue mask. He had a bald. You could see his eyes. He had nose and a mouth. It was all like blue and kind of powder blue silvery. It reminded me of the mask Doctor Strange wore for a little bit in his like superhero phase in the like into the 60s. That's kind of the Fantomas image I think a lot of people have caught on to since the 60s. In the 60s, there was a brief period to rejuvenate these kind of proto-superheroes, proto-supervillains of the 1910s, because it fit right in with the comic book adaptation wave that cut through Europe, didn't touch America, where you had a lot of Italian fumetti comics being adapted, and some bande dessinée, which were French comics. So you had movies like Baba Yaga, adapted from Valentina by Guido Crepa. You had, of course, Diabolique by the two brilliant sisters, and I forgot their name. Very big comic series that went on for years, starring Diabolique, arch thief, and his loved Ava Kant. That was, of course, made into a 1966, I think, film by Maura Bava, and Jean-Philippe Law played Diabolique, whose real name is unknown, and the amazing Marissa Mell played Ava Kant. That's kind of iconic right there. But there was a wave of these, and a lot of them became movies. Criminal with a K. Umberto Lenzi did a really fun one that for years was hard to find with any subtitles. Satanic was like a with a K. It was like a female version. But some of the characters from the 1910s and 20s became rode this wave, like Belphegor was a French character, a woman, and there was also a Belphegor remake. The 2000s with Sophie Marceau as Belphegor, and I haven't been able to see that yet. I just read about it. So she's actually appeared in 3 different eras. That's a character I'd like to learn more about. Belphegor is the name of a legendary demon, and she's kind of a satanic, like figure. But I'm not sure what her whole mission is or whatever. I think satanic is just like a thief and a, abuser, a rabble rouser. I have seen the movie Satanic with Magda Konopka, but just once, kind of a bad print. Criminal was good. Now Killing, or Killink, subtle name Killing, was an Italian one comic, and they made a series of films, and especially of note are the Killink films are made in Turkey. Killing versus Superman, and Strip and Kill. Like strip nude for your killer. The women have to be nude when they're killed. It's just a ritual sacrifice. Why are men nude when they're killed? I have both of those movies on one very rare Greek DVD. I mean, it's very rare. There's I'm pretty sure there's way less, 2,000 or way less copies on Earth. So I've been selling it for $80 on eBay, and I'd like to jack up the price, and I don't seem to have the interest even for it for 80, which I think I have that now. Interested? Check out my eBay store, please. I need the money. So that was kind of a whole wave. So what got sucked into that wave was the wave of European, mainly French, proto-heroes, proto-anti-heroes, proto-supervillains from the 1910s. They were remade. So like I said, you had a Belphegor, you had a Fantomas, you had several films of Fantomas with Marais, and of course Louis de Funès as the comic bungling detective, I think. He kind of as a Jacques Clouseau kind of character from the Pink Panther. There's an archetype for that character I'll be getting to later called Coquanton. But they did not redo the vampires. Thank God. But they did remake Judex. So Georges Franju, who had done a very surrealistic, cocktailish surgical horror film called Yeux sans Visage, or Eyes Without a Face. In America, it was butchered for the drive-in for Torture Chamber of Dr. Faustus. Juan Luis Moctezuma's fantastic Mansion of Madness was also butchered and retitled Dr. Tar's Torture Dungeon. So that was a little closer to the truth, because the original title of the short story that Moctezuma adapted for Mansion of Madness was by Edgar Allan Poe, and it was called Dr. Tar and Mr. Feather, I believe. Get it? Tar and Feather. I sold my copy of that sometime back for about $70. Don't know if it's still if it's coming out of Blu-ray or not. Mansion of Madness, but I highly recommend it. I had 2 copies of Alucard. I did sell one for 70. I'm holding on to the other because supposedly they can't make a Blu-ray because they can't find the original elements. That would be a crime against humanity because Alucard is just amazing. I've covered her a bit on this channel. So let's talk about how they redid Judex. So Franju made a film that was very surrealist. Music was very beautiful, and it took a lot of the keynotes from the serials, but it compressed the plot dramatically. So if you, like me, had seen the serial before you finally saw the Franju film, which is now out on Blu-ray on Criterion, I had it on DVD and I sold it. I would upgrade. The tone is very different. You know, they incorporated some of the actor Channing Pollock, who played Judex. Some of his real life avocations were disguise, magic, glamour and illusion. And he incorporated that into the film. At one point, he wore a bird head, and it was inspired by a drawing by the great Max Ernst. It's a really cool surrealist artist. Surrealism really broke art open, in my opinion. I mean, along with Dadaism, and there's a camp Dada that's being formed right now by leftist women, and men can come. And I'm excited about this development. I'm going to try to travel to go see it. But it's basically like a lot of the leftist commentators that I follow on Facebook, and a lot of them are women. A lot of them are women of color. But they're also artists. So they're kind of like, having a revolution of thought against this kind of crumbling empire we're living in, while also creating art, making art. And, I think a lot of the Dada and surrealism was a reaction to World War I. The world had kind of gone mad. So this is reflected in the art. So Judex, 1916, when the final chapter came out, the film serial, which runs total about 5.5 hours. When that was finally codified, after Les Vampires, after Phantom Oz, Feuillade had the reputation. He delivered these entertaining vignettes. So once it was finished and collected, it took on a different life, a different hue, I think, than people expected, because it wasn't as infamous as Les Vampires. Because now when you have the actress Musadora, kind of a unconventional, voluptuous French woman, kind of shapely but not always round, but still very womanly, and wore the leotard in one scene, and had bat wings and a thing on her head. That's a very iconic image from Les Vampires, and a lot of goth bands have used it. Bauhaus used it really early in their career in the 70s. And with good reason. Les Vampires is not about vampires, but it's about a gang of criminals who are infiltrating France. And they're called Les Vampires, and they all have kind of coded names or evil names, like the main guy, the main leader is named Satanus. And then there's Musadora's character is named Irma Vep, which is an anagram of vampire. Now, decades later, in the 90s, Olivier Assayas, who's kind of a rabble-rouser of a filmmaker, I wouldn't quite put him in the French extremities with like Gaspar Noé, but I would say he's on the edge of that. He likes to push boundaries. His sensibility is romantic, but very almost perverse. I like his stuff. Not all of it equally, but Irma Vep was the film he did, in which he had the idea he has a character, Jean-Pierre Léaud plays, who's a director, who's kind of the alter ego of Assayas. And Léaud is kind of reprising, almost like an aging version of the pretentious director who plays in Last Tango in Paris. which we have discussed on this channel together. And this character selects Maggie Cheung, of all people, to play Irma Vep, this great Hong Kong drama and action actress, and did a lot of fantasy and wuxia films. And Maggie Cheung plays herself, and they show her getting into the film and getting into the leotard of Irma Vep and stalking the rooftops. And she feels weird and uncomfortable, and she's trying to figure out what he's going for. And the film falls apart, and in the end, when it's finally edited, I think he dies. And when it's finally edited, he's done some wild things with it that are very Dada-esque. It's a very avant-garde remake. I mean, obviously Assayas really made it, but I mean, it's fascinating. I recommend Irma Vep. I don't know if that's on Blu-ray yet either. I sold my copy. Irma Vep. So the vampire made Musadora's image kind of an eternal goth icon. So she continues this in Judex. So Judex is basically about, you're going to find the story very familiar for good reason. It's basically about a rich guy named Jacques de Termeuse. His mom lives in a castle. He has a brother named Roger who kind of dotes on him instead of having a butler. And he has a place called the Chateau Rouge, Red Chateau, and in that red kind of mountaintop manor underground, he has all this esoteric, strange technology that he uses to spy on his target, which is this banker Favreau. Favreau ruined de Tremouse's father and led to the father, I think, killing himself. And so Judex has a good bit of festering rage, and he adopts a cloaked, not mask, but semi-disguised identity as Judex, which is French for judgment. So he encounters, in his attempt to avenge himself and his family against Favreau, he captures Favreau, and he's got this high-tech kind of cave under the chateau that Roger helps him with. And he talks to him on a television screen. And this is 1916, 1915. This was shot, and some of the effects are going for the same kind of vibe that Flash Gordon achieved in 1936. Although this is not as advanced. Not saying those were really advanced effects, but they were kind of cool for the time. It's more striking because it's very matter of fact. It's not super melodramatic. Perhaps because it's a silent film. So it's not like Flash Gordon. Sarkov! Hold on, we're getting a transmission from the Hawkman! Oh my god! And then the images appears, and, total close-up with no composition, just pure square. This isn't like that. He's got a little wall. He's got his little computers, his proto-computers, and he fucks with Favreau. He torments him and says shit to him, and then they'll talk with TV. But nobody really knows who Judex is. He sends these warnings. He also sends warnings to this detective named Kokanjan. It's kind of the Spalding mustachioed kind of comedic comic relief character, who some of my friends who dipped into the literary archaeology have likened to Clouseau from the Pink Panther films. And I think one of them even wrote a pastiche where the content was maybe the father of Clouseau. It makes sense. I'm going to get a little into the pulp side of this because Judex had such a powerful impact in that realm. Even on people who were struck by him, but I'm just going to be critical here, didn't watch serial that I watched, much less read the serial adaptation book, which I have not read, I admit. Or just kind of said, hey, we're going to take this concept. Because most of the Judex pastiches are, he's in the slouching hat, the long cloak, the little things that join it. The black clothes. He's very wiry and lithe, wiry muscled, and he's got his gadgets in his chateau. He's got his wolf pack or dog pack. So he goes out in some ancient car. It wasn't ancient then. Like a Ford kind of thing with him and his brother Roger, and all these dogs are running beside him. He's trained his dogs to do everything. They break into his enemy's house. They can ring the bell to get him to come to the door. Being an animal lover, I really, really, really love Judex's amazing, fantastic dog pack. I think it's called the Fantastic Dog Pack. It's just cool. I'm wondering my cat over here would do that shit for me if I became a crime fighter. Would you be a cat with a cat pack? Yeah, he's not interested. Judex has a lot of surprises in it. And that's where I think it was so influential in surrealism and Dadaism. Because it follows the kind of soap opera sort of semi-cliffhanger endings of each chapter, but it's not pitched to the level that Flash Gordon and all those later ones were, the American ones. It's different. It's this kind of bizarre hybrid, like a bridge between the French silent cinefantastique films and the later American superheroes and science fiction serials. And Judex, to me, kind of is the first superhero. He doesn't wear a mask. He does wear a disguise. He does have an alias, and he does send a letter signed Judex. And he's a very menacing character. His name means judgment, so he is judging mainly Favreau. But he's also sending letters to Cocanton, like, get your shit together, stay out of this. Cocanton is like a bumbler. And the main person at risk here is Cocanton's daughter, Jacqueline Aubrey, who is a widower with a young son named Jean. So, Cocanton has a little fancy for Jean. Now, the thing is, the Favreau extended family in their maison, they have a butler named Valiers. Now, Valiers, I was fooled because I didn't know. I just thought that was just some old man. He was going to somehow figure the plot. But then you find out that Valiers is indeed Judex, Dr. Tremuse, same actor, Rene Creste, and we established Judex as a master of disguise. Also infiltrating the Favreau home is Diana Monti, played by the great Musadora, who, courtesy of Le Vampire, became a kind of an icon for goths, like I said. In this film, she's still wearing the black makeup under her eyes and black hair. She does show off her kind of voluptuous figure a time or two. And the sneer with her teeth kind of bared. She's an intense figure. And I almost feel like some of the few scenes where she is going up against Judex with a gun and all black, he's in full regalia, I almost feel like there's maybe not coming from his part, but from her part, there's like a sexual tension. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's definitely a template for Batman and Catwoman. Let's face it. And all the stuff I described to you earlier, I was saying it'd be familiar. It's because it's integrated into the larger Batman mythos. If you wanted to see a great Batman film, accentuates the best things about Batman, of the films that I've reviewed, I would not pick the Robert Pattinson film. I would pick Judex, the original. I know that sounds crazy, but I like to seek out the originals. I like to seek out the pioneers. I like to give them credit where credit's due, because it's so hard as an artist. You create stuff, you create in a vacuum, and you don't know. Other people around the world could come up with the same idea simultaneously, because this is a Rupert Sheldrake theory, we're all tapping into the morphogenetic field. There's other names for it. It's why, it's a parallel evolution. It's like why you teach a rat to lick this maze in America, And then somehow, next day or two in Australia, another rat licks the same maze. There's no, contact. It's very mystical. But it is scientific too. There's a field, like any field, like an electromagnetic field in the brain. So anyway, when Judex has all this advanced technology, we don't know how, except to paraphrase the great Ben Affleck about it. What's your superpower? I'm rich. So yeah, Judex is rich, um, and he's not a dick like Ben Affleck's Batman. Um, and there's a lot of kind of parlor drama with all the rich friends and the kids. Of course, Valier's the loyal servant is in on it, and then you find out he's Judex. So this woman who has infiltrated the house, played by Musador, I think her name is Marie. She is the what do you put it? The nanny or whatever to Jean Aubry, the little kid, Favreau's grandson, and but she's really Diamante. She's scheming to destroy Favreau to get all his money and just to get everybody's money and kill everybody. She's just evil incarnate, man. But she's really mean and she's really kind of hot. She's a bad girl. She's a vamp, very much a vamp of that exact period and from an exact movie. Possibly that term came from the Feuillade film. I'm not sure, but I think in some way you can trace it back to that. Theta Bara was a vamp, which supposedly that was not her real name. It was supposedly an anagram of Death Arab. And Theta Bara was sexy as hell. A lot of women in that period evoked that kind of divine feminine, that goddess-like thing with very rustic and period clothing. I mean, when I say period clothing, I mean like period, like way back, Pleistocene era. No, there's like Babylonia, Sumeria, Egyptian, and it was regal. It was majestic. It was powerful. And of course, it was very sexual. Some filmmakers were obsessed with that period and its decadence, and also the level of culture and prosperity technology that occurred then. Look at D.W. Griffith's Intolerance, Free Tracks, all that kind of stuff through the centuries. I'm fascinated with all this stuff, and I really love when it's done in silent films. Like I said, Judex is not like this. Judex is of its time. Of course, a period thing. Now, it's over 100 years old. It's over 100 years old. So none of us that I'm aware of were alive when this film came out in 1916 and it's finished serial chapter format. So there's a lot of byplay, a lot of subplots. Dianamonte's accomplice / boyfriend finds this old man, this hobo, this bum named Valjean, and Valjean becomes an ally of Judex and his brother Roger. And by extension, of course, the Fantastic Dog Pack is in on it. And Valjean is the father of this reprobate, and so that reprobate has this kind of change of heart. And Dianamonte's like, fuck this. Meanwhile, Favreau's been tortured psychologically. He's becoming a good guy because his brain is mush. And I didn't really like the idea of redeeming Favreau. I thought he was evil incarnate. I mean, I thought he was kind of, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like Batman. Why does Batman never kill the Joker? We're to believe Favreau comes out, and since his brain is mush, he reunites with his daughter. And by this time, his daughter knows the whole story of young Judex / Valiers. He doesn't dig Jacques de Tremuse. And there is a romance kindling. Meanwhile, he's trying to orchestrate the final defeat of Dianamonte. So there's layers to this. There's layers of schemes and perfidy going on, especially with Favreau's a banker, so that's of course a classic archetype of someone who's corrupt And no, they don't say he's Jewish, and I'm not getting into any of that, so please don't read that into it. So bankers can be evil and not be Jewish. Okay. But Favreau's like a joke compared to Diana Monti. She has these great schemes. And she'll do whatever. She'll master her disguises. She'll walk around in her cat suit. She'll go on Judex. Whatever it takes to fuck people up. So I really like the single-mindedness of the character as played by Musador. She's not as powerful in the hierarchy of her criminal empire as she is in Les Vampires, as Vermouth. She's more of a novice, more of a lone wolf with just a few agents and confidants. But when that all starts to crumble, whatever. And this time, Cocanton is onto her, and Cocanton, of all people, now has a love interest, Daisy Troop or Toop. I can't remember her name. But she's also a very thick, voluptuous French woman. She's like a champion swimmer. And there's the sexiness to her, and of course the contrast between her and the very milquetoast, slim Cocanton, but there's like the hint of he's gonna have sex with this thick athlete. It's kind of like a Robert Crumb fantasy. Not everybody might interpret it that way, but I do. I guess I'm a pervert. I do think there's smoldering sexuality underneath all this. I mean, and not just sexuality, violence. It's not real violent, but there's always the threat of violence, and there's, the rage and madness, and you don't really know to what extent Favreau will go, what extent Diana Monti will go, and what extent Judex will go. Or even a character like Valjean, he was fucked up by Favreau too, and separated from his son, and his son ends up becoming a criminal. So when I was talking about those 60s remakes, Franju cuts most of the stuff out. He focuses on Judex as this ominous, mysterious figure who is targeting Favreau and infiltrating things, and of course in love with Favreau's daughter, which is really beautiful theme music. I really feel terrible. I should know this. I've watched this movie enough. I believe it's Georges Delerue who did the music for the 1963 Judex, but if I'm wrong, I want you to tell me. I think it's Georges Delerue. Contempt. Might be Michel Legrand. Those two guys were kind of like the big mainstream French composers. They were kind of Ennio Morricone was in France. I love the 1963 Judex. I mean, the music really makes it, and the photography is just gorgeous. But if compared to the original as a story, it's weak. And I don't think it cares. I don't think Franju cares. I think Franju's like, we don't need this character with a licorice kid and this. Fuck that. We don't need Valjean and his son. Let's get to the point. And so that's kind of where it goes. And he also integrates in the actor who plays Channing Pollock, recast from the great Rene Creste, who plays the Jock / Judex in the 1916 version. I'm doing pretty good with this to be so intoxicated. And now I forgot what I was going to say. Way to go, man. I really think they integrated Channing Pollock's real life predilection for trickery, magic, sleight of the hand magic. And they use that a bit, and it enhances the surrealism of the character. And they make his secret identity, more of a plot point in this one, because in this one, Judex is sending people letters, but if people actually meet Judex up front, even with his slouched mask and his cloak, they know it's Jacques Tremese. There's no Superman level, like hypnosis through the glasses bullshit. But in the remake, he wears this bird mask with a suit. It's a very powerful image. It's inspired by The art of Max Ernst, another great surrealist artist. I just want to say I'm bummed that I lost my original video of this, but I'm very pleased with this. I wasted a lot of time in the other video talking about things that were going on with me and problems I had, and good things too. But I really want to focus this like a laser beam on fucking Judex. He is a character that I don't know why he resonates so hard with me. I mean, I don't care about rich guys in caves. I'm not really into Batman that much anymore. I mean, in this era, the take on Bruce Wayne and Joker is more relevant than the take on Thomas Wayne. And Joker is more relevant than the take on Thomas Wayne and all the other Batman mythologies. Things are different. Art is a mirror of its time and a catharsis, I wrote something a long time ago as a blurb introducing an article I wrote on material action and madness is what I call it, which was speaking about the material actionism in general from Austria and beyond, with these figures like Otto Mule and Kurt Krenn, Herman Nitsch. And I traced a lot of it to some of the earlier performance art, like Yves Klein, and then I traced it kind of down all the way to people like G.G. Allen, who are on stage doing whatever obscene act they fucking feel like, but they consider it art, or what G.G. Allen was like, it's rock and roll, And along the way, you had tons of things like the Panic Movement with Jodorowsky, or the Clum Transmissions with Genesis P. Orridge, Marilee Schneemann, countless other performance artists. But my point is that I wrote, we see the artist as shaman, the capital A artist as capital S, the artist as shaman, standing on the perimeters of society. I forgot how to put it, but it was basically the artist as shaman stands on the perimeter of society, something the impossible, conjuring the impossible. That's not it. It was a good quote. I still have it in a magazine, but I agree with that. The artist is kind of banished from his culture and vilified, yet people will enjoy his work who hate him. He is like a shaman. He is summoning, the impossible. He's summoning its magic, art, creation out of nothing. And he's an alchemist. And so society may shun him and how he lives his life, but he is a safety valve for society to take their fears and hate and all of this thing and safely disseminate it into a creative work. And unfortunately, in American culture, the artist has become so commodified and so tied in with capitalism and money that it's very difficult for an artist to have that kind of impact that they're supposed to have in helping alter consciousness of society and catharsis, offer catharsis. I mean, I think David Lynch has gotten pretty far because of his fame and money. And for that, I think he's one of the most subversive artists that has ever lived. And there are others, but not many. So let's go back to Feuillade. Let's trip back like 100 years. This guy was basically doing, you could say he was doing, well, same thing with Flash Gordon and those serials were doing in the 30s on into the 40s, but his stuff is more drama, more parochial, more like schemes and double crosses. It's more complex. So when Fronju took over the idea, he really shorn it of all that. He wanted to get to the essence and go like, okay, Judex is a surrealist icon, so I'm going to do a movie about Judex, the surrealist icon. It's going to have some plot, incidental plot beats that are going to be pretty similar to what Jacques' goals and mission are. The original. But that doesn't seem to be really the goal. I mean, in the end, Judex is redeemed. He gives up on the vengeance. He is with Jacqueline, and that's true in the original. But there's not as much struggle. It's on a very, I don't know, it's on a romantic level that you get swept up in because of the imagery and the music. And it's a great movie in that level. But if you want the story of this character and what makes this character truly unique and powerful, um, you have to you have to give deference to the original, in my opinion, 1916. So this movie was supposed to come out on Blu-ray on December 8th, 2021. Gaumont, and Gaumont's a great foreign distributor and funder, much like Studio Canal. So Europe's totally different than America. You've got these organizations that have money and raise money, and somebody has some crazy idea, like some motherfucker like Gaspar Noé comes up and says, "Yeah, I want to do this movie called I Stand Alone," and the he's an asshole and he wants to have sex with his daughter. And then these, companies go, "Here you go, Gaspar." I mean, what I'm saying, it's really not maybe that easy, but Lars von Trier, yeah, man, I want to do this movie about a psychiatrist and his wife, and their kid die, and they retreat to this cabin, and they don't have any names, and they kind of like torture and mutilate each other, and it has to do with the oppression of women. What do you think? They're like, "Here you go, Lars, you demand." I mean, I'm not saying it works like that, but I will say it does not work that way in America. It is a struggle here, and uh, I'm thankful for the fact that Europeans in general hold cinema as more of an art form rather than a disposable, as Scorsese would say, an amusement park ride. That's a debate for another time. That's the other extreme of perceiving things about American cinema. But so, my point, if I have one, is that the original is better if you want a story and if you want to see the archetypes in their time and go, "Oh my God, this is where Batman, this is where the Shadow came from, this is where Doc Savage came from, this is where all these ideas exploded in the 1920s and especially the 1930s and 40s." And Judex was, from another country. He wasn't a household name in America like Flash Gordon or Tarzan. And so that's why I think his mystique is powerful. Now, in recent years, there have been pastiche writers, some of which I know personally, and some really well, who have danced around this milieu of the French pulp characters, the ones that were prevalent in the 1910s, and then who were revived in the 1960s, along with the wave of like your Belphegors, Criminals, and Satanic, and of course Diabolic. Diabolic, and great movie. And uh, a guy named Jean-Marc Lefissier, who I knew not real well, but he is really great at integrating all kinds of strange references from different fictions in a very, much like Philip Pussy Farmer has done, and of course all Philip Pussy Farmer's heirs have done. And so you have people like Sean Lee Levin, who's written the crossover books that were sequels to the ones Win Scott Eckert wrote. Win Scott Eckert and Christopher Paul Carey have worked their way through to where they now can do authorized Tarzan books and other novels with the Burroughs characters continuing. And that's incredible. I've watched Win develop. I mean, his first real story published that I can remember, and maybe Win, correct me if I'm wrong, was The Vanishing Devil and Tales of the Shadowman, I think #1. And now he's written a Tarzan novel, official authorized Tarzan novel. I mean, I'm so fucking proud of that guy. And I put some distance between myself and these guys because I became very close friends with a lot of them. Hung out with them at the San Diego Comic Con in 2006. Great memories. But Flickr Street was calling me, and my characters were trying to tell me, hey, forget about us and tell me what they're up to, you know. And that's how it works in my mind. In my mind, Flickr Street channels through me. When I have to contrive, sometimes I have to figure something out. But I have to seriously contrive, like, I want this to happen because this happens, and then I'll have this cool thing. When I do that, it usually fails, and I have to scrap the whole idea. But when I let it reveal itself to me, it's pretty profound. And so, like I've mentioned, David Lynch, you know, Philip Jose Farmer, and his acolytes, Feuillade, Andre Breton, and Max Ernst, the surrealists. All this whole tradition is really people tapping into the power of the subconscious, the power of dreams, the power of repressed sexuality, and they are alchemists who are taking these vibrations and transmogrifying them into art that serves a function within a healthy society. And so, yeah, Judex is brilliant. It needs to be on Blu-ray, one disc, where you can watch the whole 5.5 hours. I love to do that with these. I'm just weird that way. To me, it's a movie. I tried to get through all of Twin Peaks: The Return one night, and I was drinking much more heavily than this. And I drew some pretty decent Flickr Street pictures. By the time I got a third one, it was getting a little ragged. There's 18 episodes. I barely got to the 15th. I had to stop and sleep. So I'm going to wrap this up before I get any more smashed. I just wanted to say that I hope this video makes it through, and maybe it's better than this is. I actually am more concise and tight because I went through the first one. And I've been watching the serial again. I'm on disc 2 now as we're speaking, and I think the characterizations are great. I mean, there's some cheesiness and stuff and cliches, but you know, there's also some things that are timeless. So I highly recommend this. The Flickr Alley DVD double disc set that I own. Last I checked on Amazon, it's apparently going out of print. On its way out of print, and it's $75, which means on eBay it could be way more. Which means I may have to sell my copy, even though I'd rather hold on to it until I have confirmation of an official Blu-ray release. That's kind of what I've been doing with some of my most cherished films on DVD, is holding on to the DVD until there's something vital and truthful news-wise that yes, this is on Blu-ray or this is coming on Blu-ray, and then I'll sell it. I have no problem with that. I have an eBay store. I got the link below. Check it out. I am in dire straits financially. Have been for months. And man, it's getting old. So if you can help me out, you want to buy something, I will make you an offer. If you want to contribute to my GoFundMe, which I'm going to be wrapping up soon, please. Or if you want to PayPal me funds, or PayPal me, or email me and send me some Blu-rays to review or music to review. I'll review anything. I've got a buddy who's sending me his album to review soon, so that should be cool. I'm here, man. My channel's growing, and I am going to keep on keeping on, as the man Curtis Mayfield said. Keep on keeping on. And I could do without that, but he's one of my icons. So next month we're gonna do more blue reviews. We're gonna try to relaunch Bottomless Well with episode 3. I've got them all sketched out, and I've got I'm getting together a better way for you to hear the music on here audibly and clearly. Problem with that is how many seconds of the music do I play? Most of it's going to be very obscure, but I had a copyright strike against me. I'm not going to go into detail. Only a few people really know what happened at all. But my last video was Blue Review number 129, Crimes of the Future by David Cronenberg. a nearly hour-long review, and I was happy with the way it came out. I just gotten home from the theater watching it. And in hindsight, I got to say, I really like and respect the film, despite some flaws. Um, but I had already posted it as number 128, and it was pulled. And I'm not going to get into further than that because it's going to be a mess. Basically, I did what I was asked to do, what was possible to do to remedy it or atone for it. And then I re-uploaded my review with new graphics and a new description. Now it's over 300 views in 2 days, so I'm happy. I hope no one messes with it. I really did not mean to infringe on anyone's copyright. It must have just been poster images. But, through fair use, I mean, to be fair, you do look up images of these movies, and I always try to find one that's interesting and has the title of the movie on it. Because I'm not advanced enough to do it all. One day I will be, where it's one without the title, and I put the title. I should know. I learned how to do all this at one point. I've largely forgotten. I suck. So I'm back to pencil and paper, old school. But point being that when you search this kind of stuff, there's tons of images. And surely, I mean, these are fair use, and surely the studios can benefit from the publicity, even if someone hates the movie, having their image out there. Having a naked Viggo Mortensen upside down inside of a weird, like, I don't know, like a pod, like a birthing pod of these sort of quasi-organic things directing his movement. That's a hell of a fucking image, man. And I have it on my video, and it's pretty oblique. It's cut through of a poster. I'm hoping it won't get taken down. Just give me a break, guys. I've barely gotten into the political stuff. So thanks a lot for listening. I'm going to cut this short. The usual suspects, I got to thank Tim Tolbert, Shelly Druckrey, Drew Dahmer, Lee Levin, Tim McLain, Nicola Nazareno, Mick Cantone. That's most of my closest supporters that keep up with the channel and give me feedback. If not hear them through DMs. I'm sure I'm forgetting 3 or 4 or 5 people. And I wanted to give a shout out to a young lady that I met online who I think is like, they're basically trying to marry me, but I don't think it's going to happen. But she's cool. Her name's Bayanne. I won't go any further, but thank you, Bayanne, for this last few days of fun. And thank you, everybody, for everything. And my friends at work, people like Sarah and Devin, who are freaks about The Boys and a lot of other movies and TV shows I like. And it's so nice to be able to talk about that stuff at your job as an escape. I will be talking about The Boys season 3 soon. A little more commentary on Ms. Marvel. Some more streaming things that I've watched, films. A lot of extreme forgotten ones. The only theater one that I can think of that I'll review is Thor: Love and Thunder. But that's a little while. I'm still trying to keep the superheroes at bay. And beyond that, July will come and I'll be doing some more personal videos that I'll be doing. Hopefully doing the bottomless well once I kind of lick this whole copyright idea, how to go about it. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate you listening, as always, and I will talk to you real soon. Rock on.